Before I start with the questions, I just want to give people a little update on accounts in 50v50. We actually do have some devs working on accounts. The previous iteration of accounts was actually rather bad, the back end. So we have some people rewriting that. And yeah, the actual back end, like the code that handles signing in and out, etc., that part is actually finished. So what remains to be done is the actual UI, the interface for it, as well as stats and leaderboards. And in terms of 50v50, it's coming along. We have another mode planned in the meantime, which will be like a stepping stone to 50v50. It'll have some of the perks and some of the guns that will end up in 50v50. Now that that's out of the way, we can get started with some questions. Are you still doing your subscription type donation plan you talked about a few months ago? And we are still planning on doing that. It's going to be called the supporter tier, and it's going to be added along with accounts. So basically it'll give you a number of perks, nothing like cosmetic or obviously gameplay related, but things like it'll give you access to exclusive leaks, so you'll be able to see what's going on behind the scenes with the development of the game, and it'll allow you to use like special characters in your username which you wouldn't be able to otherwise, and you'll be able to make your name slightly longer and things along those lines. Okay, and our next question, will you add a free battle pass once the full version is released? And no, we are not planning on adding any sort of battle pass, because essentially it introduces what's called FOMO, or fear of missing out, where basically you feel like you have to come back so that you don't miss any like cosmetic drops. Yeah, we want to avoid that. So what we're considering instead is a system where you earn essentially points from playing, and those points you can spend on cosmetics. And one advantage of this system is that you're more free to choose like which cosmetics exactly you want to spend your points on. And now, to be clear, these points are not like a typical sort of currency. You certainly won't be able to buy them with real money. That's something that we're absolutely going to avoid. We have no plans for microtransactions. These points you'll be able to earn solely from playing the game. Okay, next question, win/rank fix. So for those of you who aren't in the Discord server, yeah, we have a custom built bot, which after we moved it from one server to another, it caused some issues with it. One of the commands broke, and yeah, that needs to be fixed. I was planning on looking into it after the upcoming update, which should be later today. Update to the game, that is. Yeah, we have some people working on a completely revamped bot, which should be a big improvement. Okay, next question. Are we ever going to see the return of the G17 scoped? For those of you who weren't around, in the first iteration of Halloween mode, we had this weapon called the G17 scoped, which essentially gave you a speed boost. When you had it equipped, it fired very rapidly. Yeah, and it was removed mainly because the amount of bullets that it put out, it had a really high fire rate. It caused some lag, and yeah, we don't have any plans to bring it back for the moment, at least. Okay, next question. Whatever happened to the perk with the coffee cup solstice leaked, and if it's cancelled, what did it do? So this was a special perk in normal mode, which would be granted by a special piece of equipment, and yeah, it was just never added. We're probably going to add it at some point in the future, and yeah, I'm not going to say exactly what it did because, again, we are planning on implementing it at some point. Okay, and next question. What do you think about Survev getting accounts? I'm just going to say it's really none of my business, none of our business what Survev is doing. It's not my project, so yeah, I really just don't care, frankly. I think that the best thing that we can do at this point is just try to move forward with our own iteration of accounts, and we do have a bunch of plans for our accounts which will make them basically a step above the Surviv and Surviv accounts, like a friends system. Yes, and for those of you who have been waiting for an update, we are going to release a new update shortly after this Q&A. Okay, question, what are you guys planning on doing with the Demolition Expert perk? Yes, we removed the grenade preview from the Demo Expert perk for performance reasons. Basically, the library that we were using actually to draw the dashed line had a lot of dependencies for some reason, and yeah, we ended up removing that. So we're going to buff it in the future. We don't have any specific plans for it, so if you do have any ideas for how we could buff the Demo Expert perk, feel free to leave a suggestion in the suggestions channel on the Discord server. And if you're watching this on YouTube and you want to watch the next Q&A live, you can watch it there. And in the future, we are also going to stream to YouTube and possibly Twitch. Okay, and the final question I have prepared here, when's the privacy policy? So, as I mentioned in the previous Q&A, one of the things that's been holding us up in releasing mobile apps is that we don't have a privacy policy for the game yet. Currently, well, I've been working on other things, and as far as I'm aware, no one else is really interested in writing one. So if you would be interested in helping us create a privacy policy so we can publish the game to app stores, please reach out to me in Discord DMs at HASanger. So clans are probably something that would come later. The initial release of accounts is going to be fairly basic. In the future, we'll add more integrations and features, but for the initial release, we're focused on just getting something out there for you guys.
You guys don't have a privacy policy. Isn't that just like you type a long document, like accepting rules, etc.?
So the difficulty with a privacy policy is that it is a legal document, and we want to make sure that there are no sort of loopholes or legal issues, because if there was some unclear language or something along those lines, it could actually land us in some legal trouble, so we want to be sure that we get it right.
So that's probably why, because there's a lot of laws that you have to abide by.
Exactly, yes. Yes, it's a legal document, and none of us are lawyers, which makes it difficult.
You could possibly try to reach out, or are you just waiting for someone to own up to it?
Well, for the time being, we've pretty much just been waiting for someone to take us up on it, but yes, it is a possibility that we could ask around. That's probably something that we'll do in the fairly near future, if we don't get anyone working on it.
I was also thinking of an item, kind of like a frying pan, except it's called like a riot shield that's made of glass, and you can break it like a frying pan. It deflects.
So essentially, portable cover. Well, if I'm not mistaken, we've sort of been avoiding adding any sort of portable cover because it could get rather annoying, but I don't know, it's something we could explore. Well, a skin editor is something we're unlikely to add because of how easily it could be used to make camo skins that make it easier to blend in. Hi.
Do you know if there would be more than a 2-layer area?
We're trying to avoid that because it would make fights annoying, especially in the end game. If you were trying to look for someone and you had to search several different floors, it could get extremely annoying. So yeah, that is something that we're trying to avoid. It'll probably be limited to just 2 floors in most cases.
Do you guys have plans to make like a native mobile app?
So the thing with that is that Suroi is actually quite a complicated piece of code, and porting it to a different platform with a sort of native app would be a huge amount of work. So it's potentially something we could do in the future, but it's very much a post full release sort of thing. It's not something we would be doing anytime soon.
Are you guys on iOS by any chance?
Well, we've been having some issues with signing up for the Apple developer program where I've been unable to verify my identity. I've been going back and forth with their support for a while. When I try to scan my driver's license, it gives me this error basically saying that your information could not be verified or something along those lines. And yeah, I've been going back and forth with Apple support for months at this point, and they still haven't resolved the issue. I'm still not able to sign up.
You guys mentioned adding vehicles to the game. What happened with that update?
Well, it's something that it's quite far off. If we were to do vehicles, we'd want to do them properly, so it's not something that we're going to be doing in the near future. We have other things that people have been waiting for a while, like accounts and 50v50. So yes, we might add vehicles in the future to an exclusive mode, but not anytime soon.
For 50v50, do you plan, like when you release that mode, are you going to reduce the servers down to like one region, or will it be available in every region?
The problem is that for a lot of people, NA is unplayable due to ping. I think that if we were to cut out those other regions for 50v50, it would annoy quite a few players. I don't think there would be a huge benefit in terms of player counts. I do think that we need to do more stuff with social media. These Q&As are also part of that.
I saw that you guys purchased Google Ads to try and promote the game. I was just kind of curious, like, how well did that work out for you guys?
Well, I'm not sure about increases in players exactly, but we have gotten a reasonable number of impressions. So yeah, since we started our campaign, we've spent almost our entire budget. We allocated a $200 marketing budget, of which we've spent $195, and from that, we've gotten 625 clicks and 18,700 impressions. So not too bad. When we do another marketing push in the future, we'll definitely look into some other methods of advertising.
Do you have like a dedicated marketing person on your team? Like, how does it work? Or is it something that you and your team are just trial and error to see what works and what doesn't work?
Well, at this stage, it's essentially trial and error. We have had someone reach out to us. Yes, actually, I need to follow up with them. Would you consider hiring someone to write a privacy policy? I think that if we're not able to find someone who's willing to help us out with that, then that's something we might end up doing.
Why not use a ChatGPT?
Pretty sure he wants to make it polished, like he said with the lawyer.
AI could help, but I wouldn't want to rely on it for legal stuff.
I mean, you could just get AI to do it and then just send it to like a legal student or like a lawyer that you might know just to review it after.
Yeah, we'll probably end up doing something along those lines.
If these languages are to be translated in the future, how would you obtain these translators?
Well, so far, all of our translations have been from volunteers. Essentially, if someone is willing to do translations for language, then we make translations for that language. We might look for volunteers to do it. I don't know that we'd want to pay anyone. I haven't looked into that. I don't know how much it would cost, if it would really be viable for us. I mean, we do have translations for most languages at this point, and they're mostly complete, so I'm not sure that it would really be worth our money, frankly, to hire someone to do some of the less common languages. Yeah, it may have been a mistake to spend as much of our budget as we did on Google Ads, and when we do allocate more money to marketing, we're definitely going to explore other options for advertising.
Maybe Instagram ads or TikTok ads, because most kids these days, they're on TikTok scrolling or Instagram.
Yeah, well, that's probably what we'll end up doing then.
One of the questions I had is, like, what is the end goal for Suroi? As in, obviously, most game projects that have like a goal in mind. Like, what is your goal? Like, is your goal to kind of turn the game into like a full-time job for yourself, or just basically reach as many players as possible? Like what is like the motivation behind it?
Well, really, it's always been about making sort of a free, open, and fun game for everyone. So I wouldn't really say that there is an end goal in mind besides, as you mentioned, just reaching as many people as possible.
Yeah.
I don't really have any plans of making it into sort of a full-time job.
We mentioned a little bit about Steam last time. Was there a problem with not being able to host it on there, or are you just waiting until accounts come out first?
We haven't really done much with Steam at this point.
Adrenaline particles whenever you like drink and heal. I saw right before like they got shut down servers, where you had an option to change your particles. Are you gonna be adding additional ones, or are you gonna keep it the base?
Yeah, we will be adding additional ones, probably along with accounts.
Would there be a sandbox mode?
That is something that I want to add at some point. The way it would work is basically by running an instance of the game server within the browser, which would mean, well, it would take away from the load on the actual game servers because the sandbox would be running entirely within the browser, and this would also allow for whenever we do mobile apps or like a Steam release, it would allow you to play the game offline. Yeah, we are going to do a building editor at some point, which will make it a lot easier to create your own buildings using probably a selection of different walls and floor patterns. And then you'll also be able to create essentially your own custom maps.
Do we get the option for like generation, like a settings menu for it too?
Something along those lines, yeah. So for free, you'll be able to run your own server from within the browser. I don't know how many players that would actually be able to handle, but one way that we've considered like monetizing the game is creating essentially a subscription service which allows you to rent game servers. So if you want to have like a smoother experience and offload the actual server computations onto our servers, you could more easily handle larger amounts of players for your custom maps. You'll be able to, rent your own private server. People will more easily be able to create their own content, which will hopefully keep the game alive even after we stop creating new content, which, to be clear, as I've said in the past, I do want to keep supporting the game for as long as I'm able, but if for whatever reason I'm no longer able to, I want the game to be able to sustain itself.
Would there be so like when you do account stuff, are you gonna add like a linked role in the Discord where you can link your Discord account to Suroi?
Yeah, I think that probably on the first release of accounts, that might be, I don't know if it'll be the only way to sign in, but it will certainly be an option.
Because I was wondering, you guys could like add a linked role where it would show like a green or whatever color you guys wanted, and then just say linked. Probably would also be better moderation too if you made it so only linked people can do certain things.
I'm not really sure about that. I don't want to create another Prestige Island situation, which for those of you who haven't played, who didn't play Suroi back in the day, it was basically, there were separate lobbies for people who weren't signed in and various limitations, which is something that I want to avoid. If we were to split up our player base like that, it would, decrease it even further.
Some servers you have to agree to terms of service, or you have to link a account to type in a chat.
Well, I certainly don't want to make it so that you have to create an account or link anything in order to play the game. I think that would be...
I was just thinking maybe for Discord.
Oh, you mean for the Discord server? Okay. Well, we haven't really had any big issues with moderation on the Discord server. If we did, then I definitely would want to think about something along those lines, but for the time being, I don't think it's really necessary. It just makes it more difficult for people to join the server at a time where we're not really seeing that many new people in the first place.
You say we don't see like new people, but you see like more like people that usually play that like stay with the community. Does that show you like, I guess, some motivation? Yeah,
I would say so. Certainly it does help my motivation to see people coming back. Yeah, I would say that.
Is there any plans to update Halloween once it comes back around?
Oh, Halloween. I know that we did have some plans for it. I don't know that we have anything concrete yet.
Is there a Christmas mode possibly?
Well, yeah, we have had a winter mode. Like last year, we did have a winter mode with the Christmas tree and some festive stuff. And yeah, that's something that we are going to bring back this year for sure.
Will it be updated?
Well, again, like Halloween, I'm not sure that we had any specific plans in mind for it, but it's a possibility. There are a lot of other things that, well, depending on the state of 50v50 and accounts by then, if they're finished or mostly finished, then we will have more time to dedicate to updating things like Halloween mode and winter mode.
What gave you the idea of creating Suroi?
It came from initially when Surviv shut down, which is the game that came before Suroi.
Yep.
I created Surviv Reloaded, or Resurviv, which was essentially a reverse engineered server for Surviv. And after a while of running that, like a couple months, I got a copyright claim from Congregate, who owned Surviv, and I was forced to shut it down. But I didn't want to give up this community that I'd built. I didn't want to give up the sort of spirit of 2D Battle Royale games. So I decided to create my own game, which was inspired by Surviv, but used completely original code and assets in order to avoid any sort of copyright issues.
What was the copyright? Did they specify?
Well, it was basically everything. The only part that wasn't taken from Surviv was the actual server code. Everything else was just ripped from it. Alright, well, there is one question here in the text chat, which I haven't addressed yet. What do you plan to do with all these suggestions and bug reports that are stuck in limbo? So, about that, I've been rather tied up. I haven't had a lot of time to look into suggestions and bug reports myself. And yeah, I've just been generally overwhelmed. We do have some people looking at suggestions. I don't know that there really is anything that we can do to address all of them.
Is most of the staff here volunteers?
They're actually all volunteers. We don't pay anyone.
Are any of them like your in-person friends, or are they just online aspect?
No, actually, I don't. I do have some close friends, but they're all online. I haven't actually met anyone on here in person.
The way I found this game was I was trying to look more recently into this year, because I have gotten very selective with games wise, but I actually found this game through Reddit.
Oh.
Someone suggested this game through Reddit, so that's why I was trying to get the social media based out, because I took a while, and the first thing that showed up when I looked through Reddit, because I'm not really a Reddit person, but I was that desperate to find a game like it, and it was through Reddit, surprisingly, which I found this game. That's why I was kind of pushing the social media.
Yeah, definitely when we allocate more of our funds to marketing, we'll put them into more social media, like Instagram and TikTok, as mentioned. We do have an Instagram that you can follow at Suroi Game.
Like, I didn't know there was a 1v1 server.
Yeah, it's been pretty poorly advertised. It was sort of slapped together fairly quickly and hasn't seen many updates. It's something that I do want to revisit, but I've been more focused on updates to the main game lately.
Would you possibly be able to advertise that a little more, at least, even if you don't update it?
Yeah, I do want to put a link to it on the main page somewhere. Right now it's pretty much invisible. The only way that you would know about it is if you were following the game announcements around the time that it was added.
Do all moderators have the badges?
Well, all moderators should have the badges. If you are a mod, then yeah, you should have received a link to your badge.
The guy didn't.
Really? Who was it?
I'm actually playing right now, so that may have been me.
It was Coyote, so maybe check on him to see why he didn't get it, I guess. But if he didn't make it link-based, then that's probably why.
Alright, I think I'll do one more question here. How the hell do translations work in the game? And what if a translated word is bigger than the UI it's standing on? So the way that translations work is essentially when the game loads, each UI element has a sort of ID assigned to it, which how do I put this? Yeah, each piece of text in the game has a string associated with it, which allows it to be translated into any language that's present in the game. So when the game loads, it will take each of those strings and translate it to the selected language, and then in-game it will, do the same thing. And yeah, that'll be it for this week. See y'all next time.